Let me show you how to create perfect button states in UX design. Buttons are the most common elements in UI design because they help guide user actions for all main tasks on screen. And because of that, you want to make sure that anyone that interacts with your buttons knows how they work. And that's where button states come in. Getting your button states right not only improves accessibility and usability, but also builds trust with your user. They also act as visual cues to reduce confusion and improve user flow, from menus to forms to calls to action. So let's get down to business. There are 7 basic button states every designer needs to understand. They act as tools to communicate to the user what actions are available, in progress, or complete. And they let us know whether the button is active or not, like how buttons that you can't click are grayed out. And to start us off, we've got the default state, also known as enabled. This is a button's starting point, letting the user know that it can be used and is ready to be clicked. Now, if you look at the LogRocket landing page, you'll see their call to action buttons, start for free and get a demo in colors that align with the brand identity. That's their default states. Then you've got the hover state. It's a subtle color or shadow change that lets the user know that they can interact with the button. But it can't be too noticeable because that's just going to lead to visual noise, which can then disrupt the experience. Next, you've got the focus state, which is usually a simple border or outline highlighting the button the user has selected with their keyboard. It's especially important for users of assistive technologies because as designers, we should always keep accessibility in mind. Then we've got the active or pressed state, which is the slight change you see when you click on a button. It's usually a small change in color or a brief animation, giving the user visual feedback that they have successfully pressed the button. We've also got the selected state, which lets the user know which option they chose through a change in color fill or the use of icons. And this is great for helping users better navigate a website, for example, because it differentiates the selected button from the other options. So basically, it lets you know where you're at. Take this section of the LogRocket landing page, for example. Right now, I know I'm at the product analytics section, and if I click on the issues section, I can tell I'm there because of the change in the button's color. And finally, we have the disabled state, which lets the user know they can't press on the button until they've met certain conditions. And this is usually displayed through muted and gray tones, which change to the default color once you've met the conditions. This is great for things like forms that use progressive disclosure, only letting you submit or continue once you've filled in all the information. And after that, we've got the advanced button states, just to give your designs that little extra sauce. And while these states aren't always necessary, pairing them with smooth micro interactions and transitions makes your interface feel more responsive and engaging. Now, you can have a loading state, which appears when the system is processing the user's actions. And these can come in different forms, like the loading bar, a spinner, or even just a simple text, like this one in the LogRocket website's demo page. Then you've got the success state, giving users that satisfying feeling that they've completed their goal. This confirms the task's completion and can be as simple as a color change, like green for example, or even a checkmark icon animation, like. But it's not enough to know these button states, you also have to know how to apply them. And that can be as simple as following these tips. First, consistency is super important. The text, the icon, the size, the padding, the background of your button should be the same across your entire app, or at least in line with your brand identity, because it keeps the UI consistent and makes it easier for users to navigate intuitively. Then one of my favorite bits is adding in micro animations. Using subtle animations in between button states, like a small scale reduction or a smooth fade, gives your design that little extra polished feeling. But you're gonna wanna test these different states across different platforms to make sure they're properly tailored, because mobile interactions differ from desktop ones. For example, on mobile, the hover and focus states don't apply for obvious reasons, because you're using your thumb and not a cursor. And to make sure all these states seamlessly translate to different devices, it's best to stick to simple and clear visual cues without overloading your button with too many animations or changes in color. So pretty much pick what works and stick to it. And finally, make sure to keep your buttons accessible to all types of users, including those with visual impairments. You can do this by making sure they can tell the difference between your focused and disabled buttons, for example, like blue for focused and grayed out for disabled. If you found these tips helpful, leave a comment below and subscribe to LogRocket for more UX design tips. I'll see you next time.